Okay, I'm recording. Yeah. So
Gotcha.
let's go.
All right. So, my whole thing is I just got back from Smash Camp
Mm-hmm.
last night, and
Yes.
my sleep schedule has been ruined because after the tournament, we were all staying at Violence's place,
Mm-hmm.
and I ended up playing with Spark and Albert until like 9 a.m. my time or something.
Understandable.
Yeah, so we played for a really long time, which was fun. And then we also did like Iron Mans and silly stuff too, but it
Mhm.
was almost all like pretty serious melee, as
Yeah.
serious as it can be when you're all tired, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but so I feel like I got decent experience. Smash Camp was decently fun. I didn't necessarily perform as well as I would have
Yeah.
liked.
I kept up with the tournament in general,
Nice,
so I have some vague idea about how everything went.
gotcha. Yeah, so I played against Zane, and I guess that's kind of what I want to go over today, if that's okay.
Yeah, I actually watched some amount of it live.
Okay, cool. Um,
So what
so
are
my
your
perception
thoughts?
of
Yeah.
of that set, since it was kind of just like the first one. Do you want me to find you the link, by the way?
Uh, no, I'll find it.
Okay, cool. So like my perception of the set was kind of like I had been playing him in friendlies like pretty frequently, pretty recently,
Yes.
and I had been taking a good amount of games. I felt pretty confident like about what he was trying to do. I felt pretty ready to like counter a lot of the things that he had been doing. Um, and then we ended up playing in tournament, and I think this is just like part of a larger problem that I kind of realize now that like I have this idea in my head of what I think the set will look like or what I think my opponent will do,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes me some time to adjust if they end up not playing exactly how I thought they would.
Ah, okay. So this is.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, I
yeah,
understand. Do you want to talk
yeah.
about that
So
first?
yeah, because I feel like that kind of it's happened a couple times to me now, and I get caught
Yeah,
off
yeah.
guard.
I think it's actually a pretty common problem. I'm very familiar. I think that the easy answer to it is that you should go into a set with like important guidelines, but not overly specific ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if there are extremely specific things that you very, very much want to do, that's fine. Um, for example, where I to fight Duck in tournament, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I really want to beat his double jump fair when he's recovering. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that would be fine. But I probably shouldn't approach the set and say, okay, this is exactly what he's going to do in neutral.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think being specific is okay, but definitely don't tell yourself, like, what's going to happen in the set.
Yeah, I feel like I do that a lot, and I think it like, and we've talked about it before, how like I really enjoy like severely outplaying my opponent or
Yeah,
knowing exactly what they're going to do and then beating it like as hard as I think that I can in the
yeah,
moment.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So when I go into a set and I think like this is exactly what's going to happen, this is what I'm going to do to beat it. I almost go into it in the first interaction that doesn't happen. I'm like, okay, but like he's still going to do the thing I think he's going to
Yeah, and
do.
then it's yeah, yeah. You're all, that makes you distracted is a big problem.
Yeah, definitely. I felt not as clear-minded about it because I was like, okay,
Yes.
well, now I'm finding myself just dying, and it's like, okay, what happened? What even went
Yeah,
wrong?
so
Has
now you're
anything
thinking
been
about
wrong?
that, and then you're not playing, and then it's yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so
exactly.
I think very simple rule would be create some guidelines or game plans for yourself, but they need to be very baseline.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nothing too like too specific or too like you might so like for example, here's how I would think of it. So you're gonna fight Zane in a tournament set.
Mm-hmm.
How do you view the set going? Just in general in your mind. Like what would cause you to win? What would cause you to lose if you were to play Zane?
Are you asking me this question
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
want me to answer?
Envision just a future set with Zane. You're gonna play Zane. Let's say you're
Uh-huh.
gonna win that set. What
Right.
what happened that let you win?
Probably edge guarding him effectively, punishing him when he actually gives up space and goes to the corner. Staying
Okay,
aggressive is probably really important. Moving forward with my lasers.
cool. So like those are four notes, and I would say okay before playing him, I would remind myself, okay, when I win versus Zane, this is what it's gonna look like. I'm gonna have these edge guards. I'm going to be ready to take his space. I'm going to remind myself to be aggressive even if something goes wrong. So then
Mm-hmm.
let's say, and those are just some quick notes, right?
Yeah.
And then let's say you imagine yourself losing a set to Zane in the future. What would that look like?
Spacing myself incorrectly, shooting really obvious lasers from bad distances,
Mm-hmm.
backing up when I don't have to.
Sure. So then I would maybe write those down before the set and be like, okay, this is what it looks like when I lose. And then, maybe next time you play friendlies versus a Marth, kind of have those 7 or 8 notes lined up, read through them, and remind yourself. Every time you do things that look like you'd be winning, be like, hey, that was the thing. And every time you do something that makes you feel like, oh, this is how I would end up losing a set to Zane, be like, oh, that's that. And then when you go into the set, just remind yourself of those things.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
But then don't think of anything else, because you are good enough that you can trust yourself to play well and adapt to what's happening. I don't think you need, like, to me, it's almost a crutch to think too far ahead in some ways.
I've never thought of it like that, but that makes a lot of sense.
You're already good enough that if you follow those rules, the rest will follow through. Ironically, I think what actually happened, and I kind of got this vibe, so what you're saying confirms it, is that like I said, since you had things on your mind, the set always deteriorate. Like, the worst sets for you, always you start off okay and they get worse, because when something doesn't happen the way you think it is, you stop seeing what's actually happening.
Yeah.
But I always feel like were I to isolate those things, like let's say I took the last 2 stocks of the last game of the set and just showed you to them in a vacuum, I'd be like, okay, what's wrong here? You'd have no problem identifying it.
Yeah.
But in the tournament set, you might have a problem. So it's like so much of playing well in tournament is keeping your mind on the important things and not getting sucked in or tunneled on other things.
That makes a lot of sense. And that's so funny that you mentioned that, because like I think about the first like 15 seconds of the Zane set we're about to watch, and I'm like, hey, I really like what I was doing. It's like, why didn't I just
vaguely recall you being extremely aggressive with lasers, hitting him very easily, and then killing him.
Yeah.
That's like what I remember seeing, and I was like, oh, look, he knows, how it's going to be, and he's doing it. But then I remember watching the end of the set, and I was like, wait, this doesn't look right at all.
Right. I even think like right off the bat, I like mess up one thing or something, and then I end up being put in a position where I almost die, and then it's like, oh shit, like I got in my own head, like something went wrong.
Yep.
Yeah, that all makes a lot of sense though.
I also think that something very important is we should explicitly talk about solutions to common situations that I think were I to show you them on video, you would come up with answers, but I think like that's not good enough. I think it needs to be so explicitly clear that like there's no alternative, if that makes sense. Like you sit down and play, you don't even know how to do the things that are getting you killed. I want you to only know how to play on like the level 2 or level 3. Because just the fact that you're capable at your worst of, for example, doing a bad laser aerial and getting dash dance grabbed is really bad, because if you get distracted or something happens, your brain is going to revert to like its most basic form. And if its most basic form is a much higher level decision inherently, then that's so much better for you.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot.
Cool. It's like a little tournament trick, It's like, the metagame, everyone goes rock. Just make it so that when you go brain dead, you pick paper. And that just makes you a significantly better player just automatically, even if you're still, not thinking.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So, off the top of my head, let's talk about the laser aerial one. So, like, conceptually, it makes sense that you should never get your laser aerial dash dance grabbed unless you were very intentionally making a read, knowing that that was the risk involved, right? Like, you should never get dash dance grabbed because you misjudged that he could dash far enough or something, right?
Definitely.
So, on a baseline level, if you just know that spacing, and it's a spacing where Zane will try to dash dance grab you, and I think that's a fair assumption, right? That he will probably try to. So what are mix-ups you would like to do, or other ways you'd like to play that situation? So you're lasering, it's the exact range where if you aerial, it'll barely miss and you'll get dash dance grabbed.
Laser in place the second time would be really good.
Okay.
Approaching laser could be good, but then I could run into like a nair or fair in place. Which might not be great, but that's just like a potential risk. Also, like maybe like a half approach laser with a slight drift forward or something could be good as well. Wave dashing at him could be good too.
Those are all great. What's the most direct solution? If you're like 100% sure Zane is gonna just try dash dancing, what's the best way to like bait out the grab from him and still hit him, you think?
The best way to bait the grab or directly punish him for grabbing? I guess that's kind of the same thing.
It's like go over there and somehow get him to grab but miss you and then hit him for it.
I think it'd either be like wave dash towards him and then short hop aerial, or it would be and dash short hop aerial, or it would be just dash and then like maybe even enter run and then aerial.
Okay, so I think an easier way would be to just empty hop at him.
Okay.
Because I think that if you just run at him, you will definitely take the space, but he might end up shielding your aerial or something, right? Because like he won't grab if he never sees you jump.
Yeah.
So I think, even though that's like a good answer, I think the easier answer is like, oh, laser and then do an approaching downer and do the mango dare where you don't drift it all the way in and then he whiffs the grab and then you hit him. Or just empty hop at him and then down air, because at least, or empty hop and then dash back or something, you know?
I attempted to do the mango dare a couple times. I guess it didn't work because he wasn't grabbing when I would do it. He would just nair in place.
Yeah, so that's a question of like, do you recognize when he's actually thinking about dash dance grab versus when he's thinking about other things?
That's a good point.
So let's figure that out, right? Do you see why I think like empty hopping and like doing half approaching downer is probably the easiest way to punish someone who's just dash dance grabbing?
I think it makes sense. Does any of it have to do, I'm curious, with like giving them the visual cue of you jumping?
Yes,
okay.
yeah. That's literally it. Because like, if you don't give him the visual cue, he will never press the grab button.
Right.
He will go for the dash dance, but then just, you know, the interaction will just extend. You'll have an advantage, but you'll never really like get the grab out. So like, you know, if I'm really fighting a Marth that's only dash dance grabbing and I'm Falco, I would just do laser, empty short hop, dash back, he'll whiff the grab, and then I'll down air at him or something. And I'll just do that over and over and over if I really wanted to beat it.
Yeah. It's crazy how little I do this sequence that you're talking about, because it makes so much sense.
It makes sense as the easiest counter, right?
Yeah.
So like, this is an example of like, we can come up with all these answers, but like, I want you to sit down and like, I don't care if it's like take a 20xx CPU and have them dash dance grab or have one of your friends do it, and just get your muscle memory of doing these baits to the same degree that your muscle memory exists for like laser aerial.
Yeah.
Because right now it's not quite there, right?
Right. I super agree.
Yeah. And I think that by itself will solve it. Because I remember talking to someone while watching the set and being like, man, I wish I could tell Avery these things. And they were like, well, doesn't he know them? And I'm like, yes, but playing a tournament match and knowing those things is very different than having them be like at the forefront of your mind and muscle memory.
Yeah. I do want to continue talking about this concept, but another thing too that I also wanted to talk about is just like my execution, which I think has kind of been a problem over the course of the sets that we've watched. It's like sometimes my execution is just so poor that someone will kill me for it. Like when we watched the Mango set together or something, right? It's like even execution on kind of difficult things. Like I would jump into a down air, but he would shine me, even though like I had frame advantage, I could have shined him. And like I just should have known, and I should have been able to execute that. Just certain things I mess up, like I'll miss a waveland or something, and it's like I swear I wouldn't mess these things up that frequently in practice, but when it comes to a tournament set where like I have to hit like a tight timing or something, I'll mess up, and then it only really matters against top players, obviously. Against the lower level players, they never punish me hard enough for it to necessarily matter. And I guess it feels so dumb because I practice. I really do.
Yeah. I don't doubt that you practice.
But it's just so weird to me because even with my practice, it feels like I'm flubbing so much more frequently than a person like Mango. Like I watched a crazy thing to me is that I feel like Mango always executes his ideas. Maybe not always, but way more frequently than I do.
Yeah. I mean, that's Mango's thing.
Yeah, he's very able to just execute what he wants to do and almost never messes it up. And I don't know if that's a problem of me overcomplicating what I need to do. I kind of like keeping things complicated, but then I feel like my execution has been suffering. So
no, I mean that makes sense, right? Like part of the reason Mango's so good at execution is because his ideas are very direct.
Yeah, definitely.
Same thing with like Armada. It's like everyone's like, wow, he never messes up. I'm like, yeah, but what's the hardest thing he did all set? And then you watch him play Fox and he can barely ledge dash, and it's like, well, yeah, that explains it.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like when we watched your Mango set, we actually talked about the execution in a very productive way, though. So I'd go back and watch that if I were you, because if I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think we talked about it from the perspective of like, let's not put a blanket over it and talk about why you messed up here versus here. And a lot of it has to do with situational recognition or how ready you were for what was going to happen and stuff like that. Does that sound familiar?
It does, yeah.
So at least in the Mango set, that's what I remember.
Right.
So I think go back and study it from that perspective, step one. And then step two, I think part of the problem is, again, you're probably very distracted by your own thoughts.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think between needing to learn the situations better, being more ready for them, but then also like not being distracted, that probably sums up the major reasons you would mess up.
Hmm.
Um,
And I have another question.
yeah, go for it.
Um, so I know, well, at least when I watch back your sets, I feel like I almost never see you wearing headphones or anything.
Yeah.
And like that might just be like your personal preference or whatever. I never wear headphones either. I have in the past, but I only ever listen to like music because I
Okay.
don't feel
Okay.
like carting around the big setup where you listen to game audio or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I'm really starting to think that if I just had game audio, I would have so much less distracting thoughts.
That makes
Um,
sense.
do you think this is like a worthwhile thing that I should
You
consider
should,
doing?
I think you should try it and see how you feel. For me, part of the reason I don't like headphones is because I get in my head more actually.
Mm,
Because when I have, so the reason I like game sounds from the TV is because I like all the ambient noise because it's just the environment I've been used to playing in. And when I
that
have
makes sense.
headphones, I feel like because I can hear the game so clearly and nothing else, it's so easy to hear my own thoughts.
I like hearing my own
Okay,
thoughts
so if
most
you
of the time.
like it, then headphones would be amazing for you. For me,
Okay.
hearing my own thoughts is what distracts me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's how I
Okay.
feel about headphones.
Yeah. I think it's kind of interesting because I practice so frequently, like at my computer or at my desk with headphones on,
Uh,
listening to the game.
okay, I think you should absolutely recreate how you practice then.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
like the right, like on a very fundamental level, if you perform differently than you practice, it's just not going to be the same.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was thinking about like, okay, how can I effectively tackle my execution problems? Because it
Yes.
seems like I'm executing differently in tournament than practice. So like that makes a lot of sense if I'm not emulating it correctly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just a different environment, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Uh, so yeah, I don't know. I think it's worth a shot, no matter for sure. And then you can see how you feel about it, and we can work on it from there.
Okay. Cool.
Cool. Okay. Any other thoughts?
That's about it for now.
Okay. Cool. Um, but yeah, I think going back to the other thing, as much as possible, I want you to have a baseline game plan figured out without
Mm.
specific thoughts about exactly what you're gonna do. And then I want you to like master all these like I guess classic situations where being on the level 2 will be very 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 helpful.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm really excited to work on a couple things like that. That
cool.
sounds
I think it will
productive and
be
nice.
both easy to work on and very productive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's partially about holding yourself to the standard of like there's just no reason to make some of these mistakes, but it's so
Mm-hmm.
easy to make them when you're distracted.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And okay. So do you have this set open?
I do, and it is playing.
Cool. Another thing also, by the way, is if you feel like you're starting off the set well, but then it like starts going badly, like I feel like a very easy thing to do would be to kind of like wipe your brain's cache and start over as if it's the beginning of the set.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, this is important to the way I think. So, I've mentioned before. I think like a lot of preparation, like really directly impacts how I play, and I think it
Yes.
does for a lot of people. But I don't think people exactly know what's going on. When I'm tired or hungry or thirsty, if
Yeah, you
any of
told
those
me
things,
about this.
yeah, everything just compounds on top of each other. So if one small mistake happens, I have a really hard time letting it go.
Yeah.
So the 10th small mistake becomes a giant
Yes,
problem in
I
my brain.
understand that.
So I think I really need to deal with my preparation and take
Yes.
it a little bit more seriously
That
because that
makes
would
total
help
sense.
that.
Yeah, I mean you should. There's no debate there, I think.
Yeah,
But yeah, do you
and
get what I mean about wiping your brain's cache?
I
You
do.
need to
Yeah.
just delete everything, all the temporary memory in your brain. It's like literally not helping you. And I know it feels like, oh, all these things have happened in the set, I need to remember them, but like the reality is that your baseline game plan's already doing well, and it's just that other things happen and they distract you from playing your game plan.
Right. Right.
So like that's something you could easily practice, I think, in friendlies where it's like, okay, have a way you're starting off, and then at some point you die or they die, there's a respawn, and I want you to just start over mentally and be like, okay, the set's just starting. What am I doing? And just do that.
Ah, I like that. Okay. Yes.
I actually feel like that was probably the last problem I had left to solve in my tournament career before I felt like I could truly be a good tournament player.
Mm-hmm.
Because all my sets where I would lose to like Armada or something or like some top 5 player would always be game 1 I'm bodying them, and then they make one or two small adaptations, and then I get distracted because I'm confused about something, and then by the end of the set, I'm not even playing the same way. Last time I played Armada, I almost 4-stocked him on FD, and then lost that game, and then got 3-stocked the next 2 games.
I remember that.
Yeah, and it's like, how many people just almost 4-stock Armada on FD? But then also, like, I didn't do anything afterwards. And I think, had I simply mentally reset one time, it would have been very easy. But I didn't. So yeah, this is a very close to home concept for me.
Yeah.
So let's watch this though. Let's see how you start off. Okay, great. This is great. So
I thought that was all good.
Okay, so what I want to do though is let's be really specific about not what you did, but what Zane did. So how did Zane respond to your lasers once he was on the ground? So we know he did some platform wavelengths, but that was all kind of irrelevant. He gets to the ground. What does he do?
He wave dash back crouches.
Okay, so he wave dash back crouches, and we know that means he's probably looking for a power shield, right?
Yeah.
Notice he missed the power shield. So that could, in our mind, we have to say, okay, that's probably part of something that, imagine later he hits that power shield, you get clipped, and then something weird happens, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So let's be really clear. So it did go well, but he goes for shield, wave dash back crouch, and then he tries to jump, but he didn't hit the power shield, so then he got fucked, right? Okay. And I just want to notice that, because in later interactions, who knows how it will go. Also, I want to point out, you should have up throw back aired, not up throw up aired.
Oh, I could have hit the back air.
Yeah, and I think that was very reactable.
Yes, I think it's just built into my hands to up air Marth right there. Because like if the laser's hitting you up air and then you back air, it's really good.
But up throw back air is good there. Another thing to notice is that you actually messed up your shine after the bear.
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry. Just noticing, like
we actually talked about that exact thing before. I don't know if you remember with the back air specifically, because I was like, I feel like I shined too early because the other aerials have less lag.
And then this is 4 frames lag on this one though. This wasn't a 10 frame lag.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so. And that's also interesting. So we have to ask ourselves, like, maybe. So for example, let's say you're playing someone bad. I don't think you have to worry too much after AC burying the back of a Marth shield. You're probably going to pressure him. It's probably going to be fine. But I think that actually that back air wasn't very good. And if Zane responded really well, he'd wave dash out, and then you'd kind of be in a weird mix-up, right? So I think, and this is just a theory, if you're playing someone bad, you're not worried there. You play Zane, part of your brain realizes or has the fear of like, well, how's this going to play out? But then you're still trying to react to what's happening. He whiffs the grab, but then like, you're distracted immediately by that,
Yeah.
And I suspect that that's probably a big part of it, because I've experienced this before where I play someone good, and the same decisions I make versus other people that I'm aware aren't amazing, but it still goes fine. I'm like, shit, I have to think more about this, But to me, that's partially just being more disciplined when you play worse people, because it's like, and then also being confident on following through. Like, you've already made this decision, regardless of whether it's good or bad. There's no reason to mess up. Does that make sense?
It does.
Cool. So these are all things I want you to think about. Okay, so here's another neutral interaction. Let's pay attention. So you lasered, backed up and lasered, he approached you. Okay, so here's 2 now. We've seen 2 different neutral interactions. You've won both of them very easily. I just want to keep noticing. Okay, so this time didn't go well. Why did it not go well?
I feel like I dash dance for no reason right there.
Yeah, I agree. And you already had big advantage after the first laser when you punished his nair. And I actually think you should have done something off of that after the jump off platform laser.
You mean like move forward in that space?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much have the biggest advantage you could hope for in that situation.
Yeah, true.
And then you did 1 useless dash dance. So, okay, so we see something interesting where you're doing great, but you did 1 dash dance that was bad. And not only that, but remember, I think I've said this before, but if you shoot a laser that's low, always be ready for them to jump at you. So you shot that laser low, and you dash dance. Had you been ready, you would have shielded the nair and shield grabbed it.
Yep.
So then to me, that's like a game plan issue. It's like, even if you know this, I don't think you've actually internalized that part of the game plan.
Yep.
So, something simple we could do is go versus a computer. I want you to shoot different heights of laser as intentionally as possible. And each one, I want you to think in your brain, okay, low laser, look for jump. And I want you to look at their character and look maybe slightly for their jump squat frames or for them to go airborne. And then shoot high laser and then be ready to defend against dash attack or something. And just like, oh, mid-height laser, okay, I'm fine, And I want you to consciously have those thoughts during each laser iteration.
Yeah, we've definitely talked about this concept, I think, like twice now. And it makes so much sense to me. And it should be decently easy to follow. Because you're the person who chooses the laser height.
Yes.
So it's like you get to decide what you have to be ready for.
Absolutely. But that means you have to always do the laser height that you intend to do. You also have to adapt to your own mistake if you somehow shoot the wrong laser height. Or at least the way I view it is I don't adapt to my mistake. I just play conservatively. Like if I suspect that it might have been on the lower side and I don't feel like, really knowing, I'll just play conservative.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
So it's kind of like a confidence thing. But like that's why you need to train it on your own so that you can have this kind of internalized concept of how good am I at shooting these lasers at different times. Because, each one is like some form of a frame perfect timing. You're never going to actually shoot the exact right height every time.
Right.
It's like physically impossible. So you need like some flow chart that guides you a little bit. And I assume that like you probably haven't explicitly sat down and practiced that while thinking those things.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we see that like the more, I guess, intentional we can be about this, the more we can fix this to the point where like you can play someone like Zane and not die here. Also, I wanted to talk to you about recovery because I feel like almost every time I watch you play Zane, the recovery situations devolve into some form of U-side being and him jabbing, and then you die.
Yeah.
So what's the actual game plan here?
Okay. So a lot of times I try to set up like shorten spacings. I'm pretty sure I missed my shorten here, where like he would have to double jab at the correct timing in order to hit me. So that's kind of what I was thinking, I guess. I don't necessarily. What could I have done better here? Probably just like shine stall double jump sweet spot, right?
Yeah, I mean that would be reasonable. So a big thing then is I think that it feels scary to sweet spot because you don't want to get down tilted, right? So we need to talk about that part of the game plan. Like, to what extent is sweet spotting or trying to sweet spot double jump when they have down tilt on the table reasonable?
Yeah. This is actually something that I've practiced very recently, and I'm actually really good at getting the sweet spot, specifically on Battlefield, too.
Okay.
So
but
I really should just be able to do it. I'm sorry, yeah.
No. I think, though, down tilt hits Falco if he's perfect, or no?
No.
How sure are you?
Oh, man, Kalindi and I have spent hours.
Yeah, I know. So Cardano, I remember, once said that, like, Falco can sweet spot around it, but then me and Kalindi found, like... Okay, so me and Kalindi tested it, and we found something interesting. But if you've tested it and found something different, I need to know. But what we found was he showed me a Marth down tilt hitting Falco's sweet spot side B. And I literally couldn't find a height that would beat it. But then I shortened in that same situation and his down tilt missed. But then we did a delayed down tilt and it still hit my shorten, but he missed the regular one. That is what we found. But I couldn't find a height that beat it, but I did find a spacing where shorten versus non-shorten was a true 50-50 for Mark to hit it.
That makes sense.
Okay.
So I think that he can always hit the side B, but I don't think he can always hit the double jump.
Okay. Are you confident enough in this that you would bet a tournament stock on it?
Yeah.
Okay. If you are that confident, then I say just do that.
Yeah.
That seems reasonable, right?
Yep, that does seem really
reasonable. Because
Zane
Zane will never run off fair you for sweet spotting. He will only sit there down tilting.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there's just nothing else to say about it, right?
Yeah, no, that all makes sense.
So that's partially how I feel. I want to know your game plan for that. The other thing is, I never see you double jump back, up be really high, and go for like a high angle. And I don't know if that's like something you just think is bad, or if it's just not something you're aware that you're not doing. I
am aware that I'm not doing it, but I couldn't tell you the reason why.
Do you think it's a bad recovery option?
In my head, I think it's bad, yeah. Okay. Not just like my instinct. I'm telling you my first
okay. Well, let's talk about it. Like,
yeah.
So if you up B high, I mean, you can go to edge, you can go straight, and you can go at a high angle. I feel like Marth can't cover all three of those, first of all.
Okay.
Is that reasonable?
I'm trying to think. Yeah. Right, because he would have to down tilt if I was going to go to the ledge, but then
Yes.
he wouldn't be able to cover me going straight, right?
Yeah.
But he would be able to cover me going high?
I think it depends on exactly where you up B relative to the side platform height. Because if you can get the shallow angle that like lands on the platform as soon as you get to it, I think he doesn't have time to cover both.
Okay, interesting.
Like it's the thing where like in some ways Falco is better at recovering versus Fox than Fox is because you can like Fox can't low back air into high back air before Falco shields on the side platform.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think Marth suffers from that problem from down tilt sometimes.
Okay. But it depends on like the exact spacing.
Yes.
How long.
So that could be worth looking into.
Yeah.
Because I think if you can't do that, the high up B becomes a pretty bad recovery option.
So it wouldn't be like a really high, like 45-degree angle. You're talking about like barely above horizontal kind of.
Yeah, I think between the horizontal and the 45.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the other thing is if you go high and he hits you, especially if you can manage to land back on the platform, you should be able to slide off the next part of the combo.
Okay. Yeah.
And if that means Marth gets 40 damage and you slide off, I think that's a good trade for not dying. Because right now I don't think you actually have a recovery strategy in tournament. Also, if you want to shorten around something, I think that's fine, but I think you should be very intentional because, you know, the double jab can hit the shorten, but you can SDI the second jab. But I feel like ideally you'd want to be higher up if that's the case.
Yeah, true.
And I feel like I never really see you side B at like Marth's head.
I do sometimes because I know Khalidi told me about the jab is only active like for one frame up near the top.
Yes.
So it's actually really hard for Marth to hit it.
Yeah. I think it's something that's pretty good. Also, if you get forward throw down tilted, you should always DI the down tilt really well. And that's another problem here.
That's a good point.
So,
how do you think I should DI it?
I think the ideal thing to do is SDI some form of up and in. So like, you know how like people do the forward throw versus up throw at the edge with Marth?
Yep.
But I think the correct answer is always DI in, never get up throw dared, and then if he down tilts you, you SDI it, and he gets the center hit of down tilt.
Okay.
And it actually sucks for Marth, I think.
Really?
Yeah. If he gets center hit down tilt at like 20% and you SDI it, he doesn't get shit.
Do you think I would get hit off the stage?
Very barely, but you would recover very quickly because there's not much hit stun at 20.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And I think that small optimizations like this, you should absolutely lab out and be good at. Because you actually down tilted, or side DI'd the down tilt pretty poorly.
Yeah, I see that.
Another thing to consider is, have you thought about the horizontal versus the vertical sweet spot versus down tilt?
Yeah.
So do you know about how Cardano said like Marth should never be able to down throw down tilt Falco because you can always pick which one you do?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that that's something else to consider. That like even though he was facing forward and he can walk here, I think that if you look at where Zane was standing, I think him actually walking forward so far made it so that he wouldn't have been able to down tilt a vertical sweet spot.
Yeah, that
but
makes
like
sense
if he hadn't, but he walked forward preemptively to get to the right spot to cover your side B. So I think if you just commit to falling down lower and hitting the vertical sweet spot, you should be okay. Does that seem reasonable? Especially because you said you can, especially since you seem confident that you can always sweet spot around it.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so that's like 80 different thoughts on recovery. But like,
I like that. It's made me think quite a bit.
Yeah, I think that you should not only think about it, but I want you to like really lab these out and be good at them, because I think that having the utmost confidence in these situations will make it so that, for example, you're playing your game plan great, you mess up your game plan, you get thrown off stage. Currently, there's probably a non-zero degree of panic going on. And I think that if you just had a game plan for recovering that you knew how to execute and you'd practice just as much as you've practiced anything else, the odds of you like panicking or worrying would be much lower.
For sure.
And I think that's like a huge improvement I made in the Fox Ditto at one point, where I realized like getting gimped never had any effect on me at all, but it always like bothered my opponents a lot. And for me, it's because I felt like I understood every aspect of the mix-up perfectly because I labbed it so much. So every time I would just pick an option, execute it perfectly, and if I died, I was like, okay, I guess wrong. But for them, they don't even know if they're executing right. They don't know. They have bad habits. They, it like saves a lot of mental space, which is extremely important, I think.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's funny that you mentioned that. Like against Fox, I feel like I do the same thing. It's like when Kalidi forward throws and then I like jump back side B and he dash dance and then jump off shines me. I'm like, yeah, okay, well.
Yep, that's just it, right? No problem.
Did my thing. Yep.
So you messed up really badly there.
Yeah. In a couple of different ways, but that one was terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. So you ran to the middle to read like a tech roll to the left.
Yeah, I was reading tech roll to the left, and I was just already going to preemptively waveland top platform.
Yeah, but I think you should always reactively confirm the tech roll to the left.
It's a good point.
Right?
But like, I would have to read it, but I can reactively confirm that I hit it.
Because if you read it and he doesn't tech roll, you don't have to jump at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I would much rather not be jumping when marth tech's in place than jumping.
Yeah, definitely.
And sure, like, you shouldn't have messed up, but to me, you know, again, like, when you play someone bad, the odds of you hitting your read here are statistically much higher.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, again, that, like, you've already lost mental space on other aspects of the stock, and then you also got the wrong read, and then, you know, your timing's thrown off and all these other things. And sure, you might not mess that up in practice, but I think that, like, especially when you're playing friendlies, these things aren't going to come up as often.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, like, you know, optimizing it and just only doing it if you react to the tech roll, I mean, then you don't even have the chance to mess up.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's great. We don't want that, you know?
Definitely.
Cool. Okay. So, anyway, things are going fine still. Great full hop. Okay, you messed up again. Not only did you mess up, but I feel like you moving off the top platform was a little overzealous.
It was, yeah.
If you're on the top platform, you can do this exact movement and just not short hop and just take your time and always react while staying on the ground, and he shouldn't be able to hit you.
Could you explain it again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so like if you're always grounded on the top platform, like you never jump off of it,
okay,
you always have the option to react more because you can shield, you can waveland, you can shield drop. If you run off the platform instead of short hopping off, it's much easier to double jump back onto it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you feel panicked, you can always, or like unsafe, if you run off, you can fast fall to the side platform and shield. But if you jump off, that's like, you know, 20 extra frames you're in the air.
Yeah.
So that makes you more vulnerable.
Yeah. The reason why I do it a lot of the time, and it works against a lot of people, especially people who like playing in the corner a lot, is like I just try to get as deep into the corner as possible because I feel like the meta game plan right now against Falco on the top platform
just dash dance in the corner.
Is you just dash dance in the corner.
But Zane was already in center here.
He was.
So priority wise, your priority is get down safely, not find a way to hit him.
Yeah, yeah. And I really like what I'm recognizing right now is I probably just shouldn't have jumped immediately either.
Yes, exactly. There's no reason not to wait.
Yeah, there's no way you can just hit me right away.
Yes.
In a way that I wouldn't be able to react
Which
to.
Which is why I was saying stay grounded, play reactively on the top line.
Yeah, okay. It all comes full circle.
Yes. And notice that your immediate response was, well, the meta right now is dash dance in the corner. And that already suggests that, like, that's where your muscle memory is.
Yeah.
So even if this wasn't like, you know, you clearly knew Zane wasn't in the corner. But if that's where your brain goes, that shows that's where your muscle memory is. It's like, it's no wonder that when you're like, hey, let me get off the top platform, that's what you do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing all these little pieces that to me suggest this is why your game plan goes wrong or why your execution goes wrong.
Yep.
Because, you know, if the whole set looked like this first stock, it wasn't perfect, but it would still be an even set.
Definitely.
But by the end of the set, it wasn't an even set. And I think that, like, it's only devolving from here, right? But this is still fine. And I think this is something we can work with for sure. Also, just you have to practice moving out of spot dodge. I know it sounds dumb, but, like...
That was really slow.
I think you were really fast, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because I think that you crouched... You shined before you were actionable and then wave dashed.
Oh.
Do you see it?
I do.
Yes.
So you think I tried to shine?
Yes, you shined too early, crouched and wave dashed.
Because I was gonna say my movement looked really slow. Like I just sat there and then I wave dashed really slowly.
That's waiting for shine hit lag.
Oh God. Okay. Wow. I'm a big Dumbo.
It happens, but like again, like we watch it carefully, we figure this out. Then you say, okay, I'm gonna practice spot dodge shining and going at the right speed.
Yeah.
Problem solved, you know?
Boom. Problem solved.
Yeah. One step at a time. And I know it's a lot, too. But, like... Oh, I really like, by the way, after that nair going for grab.
Could you go back?
Yeah, so you laser nair him out of the air, and it's really low percent, but he's right behind you.
Yeah.
Just like,
I've actually been going for grab there recently, because we talked about that a bit.
Nice. Okay, so you messed up again. And again, Zane's pretty much only hit you messing up almost. Which is good.
When that's the case.
But it's a good thing, too. But to be fair, I don't know how I feel about that downer.
Could we go back to it again? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was probably a bad downer.
It was weird, because I think you had a good idea of, I know he's going to try to be really... Like, I fucked up. I'm in some sort of mix-up. So I'm just going to make the call that he's going to be aggressive, right?
Yeah, yep.
Which is not a bad concept. But I think that because Zane chose to jump, it actually went pretty poorly.
Yeah.
So I guess we have two things here. One, maybe you can consider versus Zane that he's more likely to jump at you than stay on the ground. Like, if this were a fox, I think downer makes more sense than nair.
Yeah.
But maybe when you want to, you know, scuffle with Marth and you have a read that he's coming in like that, maybe nair could be a safer choice. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it, but I think that's something to consider. The other thing is, I'm super down to just full hop here.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think the fact that you can side beat a top platform and you have your double jump, and even if he up airs you, you can down hold. And again, I think if your priority is, if I get up aired, take 30 damage and make sure to get my shield up and hold down and slide off at some point, I'm always willing to take some damage. But I think that if you don't view it as let me take some damage, you'll probably mess up trying to escape at some point and then get death comboed. But if your explicit goal is let me take 2 or 3 hits and minimize the damage, then I think you can always achieve it.
Okay, I like that.
Does that seem reasonable or achievable? I don't even think it was a bad downer though, but it was just unfortunate. You know, you traded and then you were already doing your inputs.
Yeah.
But that's something you can be aware of. Nice. So let's look at this downer. So, you know, thus far, you've won neutral pretty well. And now, so the first time you really lost neutral, or one of the few times, you lost it by doing laser, dash dance, and then downer at him. So, again, let's look at just the facts. I think this makes sense, right? Like, it didn't line up with the rest of your game plan, which was working very well.
Yeah, most definitely.
Cool. So now we're seeing, you know, some specifics. And I think also that downer didn't make sense because if you set a reaction point after you laser and before you jumped in, you would have seen that he actually dashed back after the laser. And I think that if I was dash dancing and jumping in and I saw that the only action I saw was the dash back part, I would definitely like bail on that. I would waveland back. I would double jump. I would have drifted back. You know, I would have done something to not fully commit in there.
Yeah. So I must not have been watching effectively.
Yeah. Because, you know, I didn't see the dash forward shield into jump, but I did see the dash back, which is already enough to know not to downer. Give me 1 second.
Yep, take your time.
So I also think something else to consider here is that it's kind of funny, but like the better your game plan is, the less you have to worry about like your mental space being taken up because just more things will go well for you. And I think that's another thing going back to like looking at Armada or Mango. It's like because their game plan's developed and they're just right so often or everything works so often, it's much easier for them to not mess up as a result.
Yeah.
But because your game plan's like so far been shown to be like more inconsistent, it's like you're worried about more things. You have to consider more issues. You mess up more often. So it's the thing where like just being better actually makes it easier to not mess up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's like an unfortunate reality that like I don't think it's as simple as just fixing execution. But it's kind of cool that if you're just a better player, then this makes it easier for you to be a better player.
Yeah, yeah.
But, you know, so far, again, I don't really feel bad watching this. There's tons of good stuff. It's just like, we're also seeing where the mistakes are, and I think it's all very fixable.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, so you've knocked him down twice, by the way, and both times you chose to laser after knocking him down. And I feel like that's a very conservative approach to the situation.
Interesting.
Like, I feel like you could be a lot more aggressive there. Like, even if you just dash to the left, like, he's in a pretty scary situation there.
Okay.
Because if you
So,
just...
like, after I crouch, if I dash back at a crouch at him, like, after his tech roll, you think?
Let me see this. Yeah, I definitely think you could dash back and then, like, just, you're running at him and you're at 0, like...
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't have to do, like, a shitty aerial, but, like, just run at him and play some, run up wave dash back or run up short hop, shine, I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, both times you've lasered him afterwards, I feel like you've been very conservative again.
Mm-hmm.
So you get the laser, and then you just dash dance into laser.
Yep.
But I feel like if you're going to laser his knockdown, you should make some moves to be aggressive. But again, if you don't have a good plan for how to be aggressive, obviously it's not going to work.
Yeah, definitely.
Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's see. This time, I think he did the wave dash back crouch and actually hit the power shield this time. Well, he didn't even crouch, but yeah.
Yeah, he didn't even crouch, but yeah, same concept.
So this is his strat. It's pretty much shield, wave dash back, and then he short hops. Some combination of these, right?
Yep.
So again, if you really wanted a good game plan for fighting Zane, like you shot like kind of a high laser when you approached, but then you jumped again.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you got hit by the laser. So that's something to consider. Maybe a lower laser. Maybe don't approach so far in. Maybe stay crouching after you're approaching laser.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure. There's lots of things to consider.
Definitely. It gives me a lot to think about.
Yeah. Especially since we've explicitly identified what his, like, movements are,
Yeah.
And again, like, I feel like Zane's able to... So, like, even here, he took this laser, and after you fared him, and he just sat there crouching, and all he's looking for is potentially, like, a power shield, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that shows me that, again, if you were a little more aggressive in these close range situations, Zane would probably get fucked up, because it's like, if Marth just sits there crouching with Falco that nearby, like, he's probably going to eat, like, a delay aerial mix-up, or, like, a dash dance into, like, something happening. Like, if you just dash dance and Zane's crouching, what do you think he's going to do?
Probably eventually wave dash in a direction.
Okay, so wave dash is one thing. I think Zane specifically is very likely to do something else, though.
Do you think he would jump?
Yeah, I think Zane would jump.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think he would dash back out of crouch or dash forward.
Right.
He would only wave dash or jump, and versus Falco specifically, my bet is on jump. So I think that when I think of it that way, I laser him, and he's kind of making some assumptions here to make his life easier. He's saying, I'm going to forfeit the situation because I think Falco is going to try to set up somehow. So he's crouching, which lets him set up better. And he's trusting that if you do engage with him, he'll be able to, like, play his way out of it.
Yeah.
But that's, like, a pretty big assumption on his part, because if you were to just stay near him and then pressure him, I actually think that you could outplay him pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
Especially knowing that if you just waited and he crouched, he's almost definitely going to jump or wave dash. And if you went in before he even had time to react, then he would just crouch, and 99% of the time he'll just put his shield up because he doesn't have time to react with anything else.
Right.
So I think that thinking about these close range interactions might also help you do better versus him. Because he's kind of getting away with a lot where it's like, in some sense, I feel like this was an outplay by him because he was confident enough to just sit there waiting, knowing that you would eventually do something that he could power shield. Does that make sense?
It does. Here's a question about this situation. So do you think, and we've talked about how, in general, I like to go into the air in some form to, like, take space or pressure somebody. Do you feel like just running at him here?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I never feel comfortable in, like, any matchup. Just like shooting a laser, or maybe not even shooting a laser, and then just running at them. I feel like I have to short hop at them to make, like, an effective play. I guess I really don't have to.
Yeah, I think just running at him's good because both grab and running shine are pretty scary for Marth.
Yeah.
And also, like, in terms of the mix-ups you have if you're running at him, like, you can just do the classic, which every melee character has, which is you run at them and then you just like wave dash back, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You have like just the very baseline threat on the table, and I think that's good enough.
Yeah. It's just so weird because I always feel like I have to jump. And the more I realize that I always jump at people, the more predictable I feel.
Yeah, exactly, because Zane gets to just crouch there, and he's like, look, I know Avery's not going to hit me immediately, and then anything else he's going to do is going to involve jumping, so I'm just going to sit here.
Yeah.
And that's like one of those outplays that's like not a hard call outplay, but it's like Zane's play is like littered with small assumptions he makes versus people that kind of gives him the upper hand in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
But if you just like subvert his expectations in some way, or like play the situation more confidently or aggressively, I think that like it won't be easy for him to like just do that. But again, I think that when you're playing, it's actually hard to notice that that's what he's doing.
Definitely.
That's not really what it feels like, and I understand that. But that's why I was saying we should watch it with some very explicit, like, let's look at his exact actions. Because when we look at it like that, it's a lot more obvious that, wow, he actually just sat there and crouched right next to me.
Yeah.
Cool. And then this next interaction, you end up jumping into a nair in a second. I want to see what we think of it. Okay.
Because I try to laser him, right, when I jump into the nair?
Wait,
pretty sure.
Before that, I actually loved the roll away into retreating laser, but you didn't capitalize when he jumped at you.
Oh, yeah, I just moved back again.
Yeah, and I think that this was a good chance to capitalize in some way.
Oh, did he fair after I lasered him, though? Okay, so I could have wish punished the fair is what you're thinking.
Probably. You might have also been able to dash attack and just trade with the fair. Because, like, dash attack's pretty quick. It's much faster than, like, doing an aerial, right?
That's, like, almost what I do right afterwards.
Yeah, funnily enough. But then right afterwards, I think, since he was on the ground, grab was better than dash attack.
Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, then like after a scramble where you kind of should have had, I think you should have had a hit and you messed up and then you just like lasered at him. But that's not like a good read to go for.
Definitely. See, so there was the mango dare.
Yeah. So he was naring, not dash dancing. So let's see why.
Right.
Well, again, look, remember what I said about him just crouching?
He's just crouching and then he jumps.
Yeah, because like that's his response. He crouches to wait for power shields, and then if nothing happens, he's just gonna jump, and that's how he plays. So to me, since he was just crouching after the laser, not dashing back, that wasn't a situation where he's even gonna be thinking about dashing back. So we see that's why the mango dare wasn't effective there. It wasn't really on the table.
Right. Oh, that makes so much sense. Yeah.
Okay, we're out.
That was me just trying the mango dare again and thinking maybe he would
smash,
grab.
Yeah. And at this point, I feel like there's just no game plan left the last two stocks, and you're just like, all right, let me do whatever. But this match didn't have to be like this at all. It could have just been like the first stock the whole time.
Definitely.
But I don't even feel like Zane made any changes or adaptations.
Right. No, I feel like everything he was doing was exactly the same. It was like just shield, wave dash back, crouch, jump.
And like he moved around pretty well, and he made sure he was ready for situations. And then you messed up more than he did, and then you kind of, when things went wrong, you kind of lost track of the game plan. But one thing Zane never does is lose track, and he will still stick to it. It's like, oh, this weird scramble happens. Okay, go straight back to my game plan. For you, weird scramble happens. You're kind of like, wait, what do I do?
Yeah.
And that's like a big difference between you two. And I think especially in Falco Marth, that's super problematic.
Yeah.
So does this all make sense?
It does. Makes a lot of sense.
So before we wrap up, I actually want to skip to the end, because I think at the end of the set you played very differently than at the beginning of the set. And I want to see... Let's see the Dreamline game, actually. Because I think winning the Dreamline game is a useful part of this matchup.
It is.
I really, when I'm a Spacey, I really like winning the Dreamline game.
Me too.
That was a classic when I played Fox in tournament, is I would barely lose game one and then 3-stock them on Dreamland. And then it would like put me back in the set.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see this. So this stage has some more space. So again, game plan's not bad so far. Saw you mess up the punish on top platform though.
Mm-hmm.
Thought that was kind of bad. Something weird happened. Oh, you tried to shine that tech roll.
Yeah, but and then I fell through.
Yeah. And then you drifted to the left of him instead of to the right on the down air.
Mm-hmm.
That was a pretty big mistake, I think.
Definitely.
Okay, so this is going fine. Aha! So here's the first laser area. So let's talk about this. All you had to do to outplay him here was insert any of the things we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Yep.
That's it.
Definitely.
You already, made the laser read. Just commit to the rest. So again, Zane did an aerial here. He dashed back, but that makes sense given, like, if you look at it, like, yeah, this is a dash back situation. It's not like a wave dash back, crouch into jump situation.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's all we have to see to, like, solve a lot of these situations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Oh, you're a little too far. Hell yeah.
I was actually confused on what to do there. I've been doing, or at least I've been attempting to do in like the sharking situations, what we talked about, where you said like short hop, and then if they side B, like double jump back air, and then if they jump, you can like fast fall and then continue to pressure. And so like here I am short hopping.
Yeah, he's just too high for you to be short hopping, I think.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
But then what do I do here?
I think you probably just
he just gets to the top platform.
You either replace short hop with full hop, or you do what you just said.
Okay.
But you can full hop instead at that height. It's like functionally the same.
Okay.
But you could also just be up there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like I want you to look at these two aerials. So like the first one, yeah, like I don't even know if you did what you wanted there, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that did not look like what your intention was.
No.
Right. Didn't really wave dash the way you wanted, didn't really drift. Also, if you want to do this, you should always dash wave dash. I think you double wave dashed back.
Yep.
So, lots of little things. And then this next downer, you tried to catch him after he nared through you and you spot dodged, but I actually think dash back JC grab probably would have caught him.
Oh, yeah.
It's Falco's really fastest, like, immediate up close option, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you were, like, in your mind, down air was, like, the quickest thing, but, like, JC grab is actually the quickest thing.
That makes a lot of sense because I do dash short hop aerial as like my fast thing. So
yes, but grab is your fast thing, or forward tilt, but forward tilt wouldn't be good there. Yeah. Also, on this DI, forward throw, forward tilt would have true comboed, and I think that would have been a good idea.
Yeah, I remembered right before the set that forward throw dash attack was even a thing, and so I was like, oh, I'm excited to do that because I haven't done it recently. And so I forward threw, and I knew it wasn't the right percent, but I did it anyway because I thought maybe it'll work, and then
but if you just forward tilted, I think that would have been fine.
Yeah.
Let's look at this. So you have him in the corner, great, and then he gets up and he nares you, and it's like, again, to me, it's like we know that Zane's going to aerial to deal with these situations.
Yeah.
So you have to be very specific with yourself about the timings you're using.
Mm-hmm.
Because you probably tried to nair him out of the air, but he already had time to get his nair out, so it's like...
Mm-hmm. What do you think I could do effectively here? Do you think just getting out of the range of the nair and lasering him is good, or is there a more direct way to punish it that I should be thinking about?
I think lasering is the easiest thing. I think... I think lasering is just the easiest thing.
Okay, yeah.
Also, just dash dancing more would probably be fine.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay, great. I think you didn't really cover that situation too well.
I didn't.
So both forward throws haven't gone that well, so maybe that's another part of your game plan that you could work on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you did down air into back air. So I don't like that versus Marth. I like it versus Fox.
I was really surprised that I did it. I was like, why would I?
Yeah, I would much prefer that you just dash dance and look to shield his aerial.
Yeah.
Looking to shield Marth's approaching aerials is a really useful part of the matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're just shield grabbable for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is going well, though. So you did retreating down air in response to him naring. Yeah. I don't think that was your conscious intention, but that's actually what happened. And that's a really bad response, right?
Yep, and I don't know if you see it, but I like retreating down air, and then I was like, oh shit, he like nared, and then I drifted forward.
Yes,
like,
which was also bad.
Yep.
So again, we see like this is all game plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Again, I
So
try to do a fast thing at a
I
bad spacing
actually
with no
think
advantage.
though a trap is to do it as fast as possible. I think you didn't full drift forward there.
Mm.
If you're going to try to hit a Marth in the corner, you should not fast fall and just drift as far in as possible.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
We
Like,
also talked about how like I could also just like dash for a few
yeah,
more
yeah,
frames.
yeah, and that would solve a lot of it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this is like a classic thing that ends up happening to you. You end up teching his thing, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he should have gone off stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why he waited.
For sure.
Oh, nice. Okay, nice. Also, something Zane does a lot is ledge dash up tilt, and I remember a lot of times, maybe not this set, but just in general, when I've seen you guys play, you'll get hit by it.
I know. I hate getting hit by it because I don't think there's a reason to get hit by it.
Yeah, you could just bear him before the up tilt comes out.
Yeah.
It's literally not invincible. Okay, that's fine. Nice. Yeah, I like that response. You know the situation where you're like, what do I do if he just nairs?
Mm-hmm.
This is he didn't actually nair, but this is a way better response than what you were doing before.
Mm-hmm.
I like the dash dance, jump in with back air. Okay, so laser aerial, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at this one. And this was the game I was talking about where lots of laser aerial happened.
Yeah, it's weird. I wasn't really doing this very often in game one.
No, not at all. So let's
Yeah.
look at this. Great laser. Yeah, he just wave landed out of it, right?
Yep.
But to me, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe he had time to dash dance grab afterwards. I think to me that shouldn't happen. He should have had to just grab in place.
You think I moved too slowly?
Something happened. You either didn't fast fall it well. Like, you should have either fast fallen it earlier, or you should have realized, this is where it would have been a very easy bait to do, like, the Mango Dare.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Mango Dare would have worked 100% of the time here.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Or
It
doing,
does,
like, an
yeah.
empty hop, or doing approaching laser, like, anything. This is the spot where it's like, okay, play the mix-up. And
Yep.
it will work on Zane.
Ouch.
Happens.
I
Yeah, so you had the down tilt
early.
pad late. Did you see that?
Yep.
Yeah. And then bad ledge option. Even though, again, you've been playing well the whole time, you got put on the edge and then you didn't have the game plan ready.
Yep.
So that's kind of what I'm saying. You need that edge game plan, like, you need the game plan for when something goes wrong already, like, perfected.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, DI the down tilt better, and then... Yeah.
I can't believe I went for that. What's wrong with
I
me?
mean, it's not... again, you wouldn't normally go for it.
Yeah.
Also, you almost lost after that AC bear. This is how Mango loses Zane all the time. So be very wary of that.
Yeah.
Marth fairing to reversal a spacey out of a combo is like #1 way to lose. You got your spot dodge out, but like that's not what we want.
Yeah. I definitely know better.
Yeah. Just be aware. Nice. See? And that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like, you knew he was going to dash back, so you read it with the laser, and it worked great.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it was a pretty risky decision to laser there. But you do you.
Was it?
I think it was risky. I mean, he could just up tilt you and then kill you.
That's true.
Like, if he calls you out and just standstills and up tilts, you will possibly lose your entire stock.
Yeah. I guess I was just trying to see when he dashed, because I was like, well, if he was already dash dancing, like, he couldn't just up tilt.
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
But it was kind of at the same time.
Yeah, it was at the same time, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then you messed up again, and then, you're going to lose the match. I think that was a bad follow-up, though, on the...
The up throw?
No, on the down air.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So that was a bad fall. And then you messed up so this is interesting. You messed up 2 wavelengths this set. Kind of weird ways.
I'm telling you, Sammy, I'm so consistent with my wavelengths when I practice.
Why do you think you messed this one up? Because, you definitely haven't practiced wavelanding after sliding off on a Marth fair. I'll tell you that.
That's true. You're 100% correct.
And I don't expect you to either. But I think that maybe a trap is that you're too reliant on muscle memory and not enough on looking at exactly where Falco is.
That sounds very correct.
Okay, yeah, so I think that's going to be my vote on the problem. That the reason you're messing up in the scrambles is because you see the situation and you apply your muscle memory, but your muscle memory needs to be more adaptive based off what you're seeing on the screen.
Okay.
Like, I once saw Kalindi practicing on Battlefield without the stage on and being able to do everything perfectly.
Yeah.
And I think that's great, but I think you need to be able to do the opposite of that. Where, like, I can, like, close your eyes and then open them at a random moment, and Falco is just on the stage somewhere, and you can see everything, and then you have to be able to do it perfectly from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. That's interesting. But that makes a lot of sense. Glindy and I could both. I could do the same thing.
Yeah, I think you have the exact opposite. You guys both have this problem where it's like, yeah, you can do it with your eyes closed, but what if something happens? Can you do it? You know, just anything. So I think that's actually useful, and a good way to practice this is like an easy example is I love doing short hop under a platform and then double jump waveland on it. Mm-hmm. And the easiest timing to do it at is at the peak of his short hop, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually sometimes do that, get the muscle memory down, and then force myself to do it again, but double jump at not way earlier than the peak of my jump, or way after the peak of my jump, and try to force myself to adapt to what I'm seeing more.
I like that.
Like, do your normal movement patterns, but force yourself to do them at different timings, essentially, or do something that's erratic or outside of your movement, and then still hit something clean.
Yeah.
And again, I think doing something well is more important than doing it fast. And this was not a waveland that had to be done quickly to be effective.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. So I feel like this was a very productive conversation.
Me too.
Talked about more things than I thought we would, which is kind of cool. Which means there's a lot to fix, but I mean that's better.
That's an exciting thing. Yeah,
you have so much to work on that you could work on it every day for the next week, and you would maybe finish it all.
Yep, I agree.
Cool. Well, do you have any questions or thoughts?
I don't think so. I think I'm good.
Cool. So yeah, just make sure to really practice these things individually. There's a lot of them. Some of them involve writing down game plans. Some of them involve playing friendlies. Some of them involve asking yourself where your mental space is at during certain decisions. Some of them just involve practicing your game plan. Like, what should I actually be doing at these spots,
Mm-hmm.
And some of them require text code practice. I mean, there's a lot going on here, but
definitely.
I definitely think, you can do it. It's just, you got to sit down and be diligent. And like I said, definitely try practicing some of these common situations, because I think that if you just had responses to, when Zane would dash back versus when he would jump, that would have made your life way easier.
For sure. Yeah. I plan on it.
Cool. Let me think. Recovery. That's a big one.
Yeah. I'll definitely take a look at that.
Cool. Okay, sick. Well, that's all I've got. Have a great day. And thanks. I still think this set was in a lot of ways an improvement over the past, though.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to say, too, maybe before the set, I was thinking, right before this set, I played against Meds, and he played Marth against me, and I pretty easily 2-0'd him.
Oh, you guys played in a tournament?
Yeah, we played in tournament.
Oh, nice. That's great.
I pretty easily 2-0'd him, and I was like, okay, nice. I seem to be playing pretty well. My Marth stuff is pretty good.
Yeah, and you played Rishi last time, who you said you used to lose to, right?
Yeah.
And you destroyed him.
And what I wanted to say is I think I was playing as well in this set as I did against Rishi, but I got 3-0'd instead of 3-0'ing.
Yep. But again, I think that when things go well, it's much easier for them to continue to go well.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think if all the good parts in this set continued throughout the set, you would have had an even set with Zane. So that's food for thought. But yeah, good stuff. I don't think you should be discouraged by that set at all.
Thank you.
I understand the struggle for sure. So,
but I really am excited that there's work on. I do analysis for people too, and I'm like, there's all this to work on. They're like, I don't know what to do. It seems so intimidating. I'm like, it's fun.
Don't you realize?
You could practice anything, and you would improve right now.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that great?
Yeah, that's how it feels. It's like, wow, everything I do sucks. I could just practice everything.
You could just practice anything, it'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, sick. Okay, let me stop the recording since we're pretty